there, my crafty friends. It's Ashley Pfeiffer, the maker behind Stamped AF. I am going to share the Hello Beautiful bundle with you for this month's Craft and Connect. Now, if you don't follow me on Facebook, one, you probably wouldn't know a whole lot about Craft and Connect if you don't follow me on Facebook, but I'm still getting over a cold and I just could not do 2 straight hours of talking, so I said that I would record the video. So I am going to do that. If you were able to get the kit because you're in Canada, you are lucky. And this is what the cards look like. And if not, you have the tutorial, and if you don't have all the products that I'm using, feel free to substitute. And let's get our craft on. I am going to do this where I am doing a voiceover, so please let me know what you think of that. It takes a lot of pressure off because I have 4 dogs that could bark at any time. So this way I'm in a quiet room after the fact. I don't have to edit out all the barking or noises like that. So my neighbor just got home and Milo's going nuts. So I will record everything that my hands are doing and I will have a voiceover for you to enjoy. So let's get our craft on. In order to make these projects, you will need the tutorial. I will put the link in the description below. I'm going to start with a side folding card that we are going to use as a top folding card. You may notice that the strip of DSP in the middle is a little bit smaller on mine. I ran out of DSP and I really wanted to use the same colors, so I just narrowed my strip down just a little bit. I have a few of the little background stamps. I'm going to do some tone-on-tone stamping. This part of the video is sped up, as is most of it. If you find that it's going too fast, just pause it, or on YouTube there is an option to adjust the playback speed. You can make it faster, you can make it slower. I would recommend looking into that. I'm telling you, there's not one video I watch at regular speed. Everything is at 1.5. I can't function with regular speed anymore. So I'm just adhering all these pieces. You will notice that I turn it over to cut this little strip of the DSP, but there's some Night of Navy that's on the back. As it turns out, the piece kind of slid down, so I could not get it back up. I just left it the way it was. Popped up the piece and put a little bit of Stampin' Seal on there so I could attach that gorgeous denim ribbon. Just stamped my sentiment, popped that up on one side, glue on the other, add some brushed brass butterflies, and it's done. Oh, sentiment on the inside as well, and then it's done. So now we're moving on to card 2. This is a fun little hexagon collage using the Flowering Fields DSP, I believe it is. All of the products are listed in the tutorial, so aside from the measurements, you will have step-by-step instructions. You have all the supplies. If you need any of them and you live in Canada, I would love for you to shop with me. I'll put that link in the description below as well. I don't typically do the inside of the card right away, but you can always try something new, right? I will be masking this sentiment. I don't want the first of all that's on the top line, so I'm just using a little post-it note. It is not the stickiest post-it I've ever had, so it does end up falling off a couple of times. So if you want to avoid that, maybe get like actual post-it brand post-it notes, or use some tape and just mask it, but make sure that you take it off before you stamp it. You can see I got a little bit of that top line, so I'm just using a Tombow sand eraser to get rid of that. The secret with a sand eraser is to rub it lightly and rub away the, whatever eraser sand is left behind. It is very easy to go too far and your cardstock will pay the price. So I'm just adhering this on the inside of the card, and I will start to build my little collage on the front. with that first hexagon that you're going to place down, you'll want dimensionals on the whole thing, and then the rest of them, you're only putting dimensionals on the part that's actually touching the white embossed panel. If it's not touching that panel, you're going to use liquid glue, and that will make more sense, hopefully, as you see what I'm doing. You can see that my sentiment didn't stamp quite as dark as I would have liked, so I'm just using a Stampin' Write marker to go over that. This hexagon has a little bit more red than my original card did, so the sentiment does not stand out as much as I would have liked. As I said, there are dimensionals on the first one, and then you'll see I use a little bit of glue in the open spots where there aren't dimensionals. And just a side note, that is Tombow glue. It's just in a different container. I found that my last couple of containers were clogging, and I got tired of it. So love the glue, don't love the container. That's what that is. It's also great for precision work. I don't know about you, but I love mixing a bundle or a suite with different products. You'll find in a Stampin' Up! Catalog, there will be suites. So you get the DSP and the stamp set and the punch, or the dies and the embellishments and the ribbon. I like mixing it up. So I'm using the Flowering Fields DSP with the Hello Beautiful bundle. And I love thinking kind of outside the box. I mean, it's not entirely outside the box, but I like to think that not everyone is going to think to use the same things that I do, or me using what they do. So I'm just adding some red rhinestones here, and this card is done. On to card number 3. This one might be my favorite. So I've used the New Horizons DSP. I am pulling out all the pieces. This is all pre-cut for those that were able to purchase the kit. I created a kit for myself. Noticed I left out 2 pieces, and you will find as I'm going to adhere DSP later on, I can't find the piece. It shows up in card number 4. So I'm just dry fitting those mats before I adhere the DSP to the mat, and then the mat to the basic white mat. Lots of mats going on here. I do encourage you to try and have your pattern continue from one panel to the next. You can see that the way that I cut the DSP, I've got the 2 smaller pieces on the outside, but the middle was cut in the middle so that that pattern is continuous. And the basic white mat is a little bit longer, and that is by design because it's a lot of pressure to get these mats just right. So I gave a little bit of wiggle room. It's easier to cut it down than to try and fit it into what I've given you. And again, just make sure that your patterns are going the right way. It can be easy to flip it, and there goes your continuity of the pattern. So here I'm just going to trim off that excess basic white. Purples are not a color that I go to very often, but I love this polished pink and rich raspberry and blackberry bliss and fresh freesia. But purple is not a colorway that you'll see me navigate towards a lot. But I love the galaxy look of this card. So I'm just adding some fresh freesia onto the mats before I adhere this mat to the other mat. I'll add a bow later. Just going to add some glue to adhere that to the Blackberry Bliss. So the next step is to take that piece of Blackberry Bliss. I believe it is scored for those that were able to get the kit, probably scored and already die cut, but I want to show you how to do this. So we're making a card, so we can't die cut all the way to the edge. So you'll see I have a little bit of a gap there, and I'm going to tape it down just to secure it. Now the gap is probably a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but c'est la vie. So I'm just peeling this away carefully. And there's our little hexie card. Now I'm going to show you the inside. And then from some rich raspberry, I'm cutting 2 of the hexagons to create kind of a little frame on the inside of that outer hexagon. Ins, outs. And I'll tape that down too. Don't you wish you could die cut that fast? So just add a little bit of glue to that hexagon frame. And you may have noticed when I showed the card in the beginning that the sentiment on the inside was Memento Tuxedo Black stamped onto Blackberry Bliss. Or maybe it was Rich Raspberry. I don't remember. But either way, it was way too dark. So you will notice I point to the basic white and I kind of go like I'm using fresh freesia this time so that it's legible. Gotten a little ahead of myself there, but now I'm just going to glue that hexagon card to the card front. And then here is where I show you the fresh freesia. I'm just putting them on. Yeah, see, there's mine. They're just sitting under some blocks so that that card has a chance to set. The glue has a chance to set on the card. Man, words are hard. Okay, so some fresh freesia, which is just perfect compared to that really dark background on my original. Going to stamp my sentiment in Blackberry Bliss this time instead of black. So here I'm just cutting some ribbon in half and I'm going to do a double bow, tie that using my bow jig, and then just adhere it with a glue dot to that ribbon to make it look like it was tied that way. Sorry, despite my doing the voiceover to avoid all the noise in the background, I've got 4 dogs sitting here, shaking, barking, doing all this stuff, so ay, ay, ay. So now I'm going to stamp the inside. I've got my Stamparatus, and I'll be using the Biggest Wish stamp set. Got a piece of basic white cardstock. I'm going to stamp birthday, but I'm going to ink it up in 2 different colors to give kind of an ombre look. So I start off by stamping the polished pink on the top and rich raspberry on the bottom, and then blending just a little bit in the middle. But I decide that it's not quite as smooth as I would like it, so I just bring in a sponge dauber and smooth the edges a little bit. You can see I missed just a little bit of the B on the side, so I will bring in my polished pink stamp and blend to fix that. Stamp Happy in Blackberry Bliss. So I am going to adhere my basic white to the card base, and pretty soon you'll see where I'm looking for my DSP, can't find it. We'll just cut another little strip. And I just felt like it was a great way to bring in the card front to the inside, and then also kind of reinforce why I've used the colors that I've used for the sentiment. Here's a quick measure just to make sure it's the right height. Just going to add a couple of the iridescent rhinestone basic jewels, and that's card 3. So here is card 4. That little gold arrow on there always reminds me of YouTube. See there, I found my missing TSP. So I'm just going to adhere these 2 mats to the card base. I'm using a top folding card base. And all of these pieces are already cut, so all I have to do is stamp my sentiment using Versamark. I'm going to add some gold embossing powder, heat set it, and then just assemble it all. Since Stampin' Up! Doesn't carry the embossing buddy anymore, which you can see is still in my little embossing tray, I do have one of the more popular anti-static powder tools. It is not an easy thing to say, and I am loving it. I think mostly because I don't end up with like cornstarch or whatever it is in the embossing buddy all over the place. At this point, I was kind of getting tired of peeling dimensional backing, so I just used the edges. Heating up my heat tool, I always heat it on high and then I set the powder on low. It can be very easy to scorch embossing powder. Actually, I think I did leave this one on high. I also didn't use my tweezers, so I was trying not to burn my fingers. But look how pretty. And this was just a way, this little gold triangle and the gold embossing powder was a way to bring out the gold that's in this background. I love this DSP. I'm not crazy about the 4x6 size, but love the patterns that are in this. There's so many different things you can do with it. So here I'm just tying another bow with my jig. Cut those tails, add a glue dot, got a sentiment on the inside, and then that's that. Can you believe I condensed 4 cards into 20 minutes? Now, truth be told, it's not at 100% speed. It's more like 200% speed. I don't work quite this fast. But I mean, when I do the Craft Connect on Facebook, it tends to take 2 hours. You average half an hour per card. So if you would prefer to see Craft and Connect done this way, where it's just a video with all 4 cards, no frills, let me know. I know the whole point is to craft and connect, but I do find that most people that join me don't necessarily turn their camera on, so it's kind of like I'm doing Facebook Live anyways. So let me know, do you prefer the recorded like this or the live Craft and Connect? Here I'm just pulling in all 4 cards. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you soon, my crafty friends. Bye!